In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, which I hope you have read or will read, maybe we can read it together this winter, Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's an indigenous woman and scientist who lives near the Onondaga Nation Reservation, describes how the children gather in their school every morning to share what's called the Thanksgiving address, the words that come before all else. So this isn't just at one time of year, it's every day. And these are the words that they hear every day of their lives. This is a Mohawk translation. Today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and with all living things. So now let us bring together our minds as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. And then they give greeting and thanks to all of these elements. They give greeting and thanks to Earth Mother, to the waters, to the fish, the plants, the food plants, and the herbs, or the medicinal herbs. And after a brief paragraph enumerating the gifts of these elements, the children repeat as a litany, "Now our minds are one." And it goes on. They send greetings and thanks to the animals, the trees, the birds, the four winds, the thunderers, and those are the grandfathers, the thunder beings, the sun, grandmother moon, the stars, the enlightened teachers, and the creator, or the great spirit. And after each greeting and thanks, they say, "Now our minds are one." And finally, they say these closing words: "We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it is not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one." It's so beautiful because nobody gets to raise their hand and say, "Oh," or they don't need to raise their hand and say, "Oh, you forgot the insects," or, especially how children will do that. It's like, if we've forgotten anything, everybody can take care of that however they want to. Now our minds are one, which is such a contrary idea to what most Westerners think of when we come together in community. We really honor the individuality of each person. And, it's kind of a scary idea in a way to say our minds are one, right? Does that kind of fill you with a little bit of anxiety? Like, I don't want my mind to be blended in with everybody else's. So we will not, in this community, and in most communities, our minds are not one. In many ways, we have differences of opinion on many subjects, and that's fine. But what a good practice to have one mind in the extending of thanks and greetings to all of those aspects of our shared natural world. What a good practice. Well, it looks like we'll be getting nice weather here for Thanksgiving on Thursday. I hope it will be fair weather for your travels if you're heading over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house or the in-laws. I really hope you're not going to be on the trains or the planes just because it's such a madhouse. But if you are, traveling mercies go with you. Some people will be solo on Thursday, and I hope that if you are, the day will be nurturing for you. perhaps a nice walk, or just relaxing. I myself am a big fan of marching bands, and so I love right away to make my coffee and turn on the parade. And I also love to see the Broadway performers out there on the streets, and I'm always so glad when it's not icy cold and they're like tap dancing. Although Thanksgiving has a fraught history that has unfortunately been romanticized, it can very easily be embraced simply as an opportunity to give greetings and thanks for the harvest, for the abundance of the earth. That's how I see it. And it's also a time that we can dig more deeply into the history of 17th century Massachusetts. This year, I have particularly enjoyed studying about the foods that were and were not eaten by indigenous peoples of this region, and also the foods of the pilgrims, because this is the kind of history that I really enjoy as sometimes a break from the more difficult and painful histories that are also true of that era. The histories, we call it social history, the history of how we live our lives, including what games did the children play that day? What were people wearing? And what did they really prepare for those first community feasts? When my baba, my Slovak grandmother, tried to get us kids to eat one more pirahi, as she was always trying to do, my mother would joke with us, food is love. And I think for all of us, whatever our ethnic heritage, that is very likely to resonate with you. Food, the preparing of it, the sharing of it, is a translation of generosity, care, and nurturing from the earth to our hands and imaginations if we're cooks, and then onto the table or into the Tupperware or into the paper bag to be eaten for the survival of the body, to literally keep body and soul together. Sometimes when I'm opening a package of something like baby carrots, and the dog gets some and I get some, I think about the workers who packed the carrots, or who picked the carrots rather, and the ones who got the vegetables whittled down into that final, beautifully shaped and smooth form, which I assume happens by some kind of machine that is likely dangerous and whose operation is probably very loud and monotonous. And I am grateful for them. I might make soup for a neighbor with those carrots. My care goes into it. My neighbor is grateful. It always feels good to be fed. It should be a foundational moral commitment of every decent society to feed all its members and to permit the hunger and preventable malnourishment of none. You can say amen, that's fine. You can yell amen anytime. In my early 20s, I had the rare experience for me of being really hungry and needing food and nourishment and being intentionally deprived of it. The opposite of care that is foundational to every culture's sense of hospitality. I was backpacking through many countries, and I decided to visit Hannover Schmunden, which is a small rural area in northern Germany. It looked beautiful, and this is back in the days when we had our Let's Go paper guides, like our books. We didn't have phones. How many, do you remember that? Let's Go, or whatever your Blue Planet or whatever those guides were. And you would rip out chapters along the way just to keep your pack as light as it could be. So I decided to call ahead to Hannover Schmunden, and I was going to take the train, and I made a reservation at this beautiful family hostel. And it was in the middle of these fields. It just looked so bucolic. And I was going to get there around 4 p.m. off of the train and hike for a couple of miles to get to the hostel. And I made my reservation, and I was excited. But that day, as sometimes happens, I kind of didn't find anywhere to eat. And I kept thinking, you know what? I haven't eaten since last night or, whatever, the day before. I think I was maybe even in Sweden, and I took this long boat ride. Anyway, by the time I got off that train at Hannover Schmunden, I realized, oh my gosh, I am like really kind of dangerously hungry, where I'm a little bit shaky and I'm not feeling so great, and it was a hot late afternoon, and I was like, okay, you know what, it's all right, you're gonna be okay, just get there, you know? So I went and I hiked, and the sun was beating down on me, and I was getting sunburned, and I was just like, okay, be brave, be strong, good traveler. And I got to the hostel, and I was just about ready to plotz. And I walked up to the window, and there was this woman there. I said, hi, my name is Victoria Weinstein, and I have a reservation. And I saw through this glass window, it was like a big glassed-in dining hall, I saw all of these families eating and passing big buckets of, baskets of bread around and salads and all of this food. And I thought, I'm just about there. And this woman looked at me and she said, oh, yeah, Victoria Weinstein, yeah. All right, you have your reservation and you can be in this bunk, in this room. And I was like, okay, great. And she said, all right, then here's your key or whatever for a locker. And I said, so I'm here in time for dinner, right? And she said, no. No, you did not make a reservation for dinner. So you cannot eat. And I said, what? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because, it looks like there's plenty. It's just one person. And she just didn't care. She was just like, nope, no, Fräulein, nope. And I almost started to cry because I thought, what am I going to do? I'm miles from the town and everything is closed. It's very rural. And I was like, can I have a little bit of food, please? Do you think you might have some crackers? So I'm at this point kind of begging. And she just went, no, you can have breakfast in the morning. Do you want to make a reservation for breakfast? And I was like, yes! So I went. I was really stunned, and I felt a little scared. I felt a little bit scared, and a very unusual feeling. I went to my bunk, and I put my pack under my bed, and I laid down, and I kind of started to sniffle and cry a little bit, and I really also had a sunburn. And I kept thinking to myself, stop it. You're going to be fine. Lots of people go hungry. Get over it. And I heard another traveler come into the same room and put her pack away. And I hear this voice say, what's the matter? Not very caring, just kind of straight out. What's the matter? And I sit up, and there's this tall woman with long blonde hair and braids, and she's wearing spandex, so she's been biking. And I said, well, I'm very hungry, and they wouldn't let me eat dinner. They wouldn't, because I didn't have a reservation. She says, come outside with me. Thick Austrian accent. So we sat at this bench, this picnic bench, and she told me who she was, and she had been biking from Austria all the way up through northern Germany and all over, and she listens to me and she says, oh, what do you think? You didn't make a reservation. And I said, no, but don't you think they would have had some food? And she said, maybe they don't like Americans. Maybe she doesn't like Americans. And I was like, oh, wow, because I had thought that was maybe a possibility, but I thought, no, you're just being paranoid. And then this woman opened up her little bundle that she had been traveling with, kind of like what we call a hobo's bundle. And she had this black bread, and you've seen it in the grocery store. It's not that delicious, trust me. And she had these little laughing cow cheeses, all warm from the sun, from where she had been, holding it all day. And she had a green pepper. And she took out her knife. And this is my same Swiss Army knife that I had on that trip. I have kept it all these years. And while we were talking, she just very casually took out every element of that meal, that feast. It was her only food, too. And she just carefully split everything exactly in half, like so. And she just set everything in front of me, exactly half of what she had. And she just gestured, eat. Of course, you eat. And I was so nourished by this food, not because it was so filling or because it was gourmet, but because she simply insisted that I share exactly as much as she had for herself. And I was a little bit flummoxed because I'm not accustomed to having to receive such grace. And so in my stupid, clumsy American way, I took out a few coins. Tacky. So tacky. And I put them down on the picnic bench right in front of her like, I don't know what to do, but I feel like I should do something. And she went like this. And she said, travelers take care of each other. I have never forgotten her. I have never forgotten what she said. And I have never forgotten how at ease she was, both with the possibility that the hostel manager withheld a meal from me out of pure hostility and bigotry, but also how easily she observed and held to the ethics of the road, which is, people might be hateful. We feed each other anyway, and we go on. And so we do. And so it is. From her, I take up some of that ease. The world can be very broken. Okay. Make some soup. Feed someone. Overwhelmed by all the sorrows of our society? Come to church. Fill bags with sandwiches, juice boxes, and snacks because someone is hungry down the street and they need it. Fight for justice. Change the world. Struggle for the liberation of the oppressed. And at the end of the day, bring a covered plate to a potluck. Sit. Break bread. Come, ye thankful people, come. The harvest has come in. We say grace and thanks to the earth for providing, to the hands that prepared it, and to all our relations, human, animal, sun, grandmother moon, and sky. Now, our minds are one.